Hello everyone, welcome to the 160th episode of the Spiritual Brainstorm. In this video, we'll be discussing Jonah Hill and Therapy speak. I don't know why, it's just something that popped into my thread of, messages and stuff, and so I quickly scrolled through it. I mean, the story goes from what I could, read, that basically Jonah Hill was like trying to control his girlfriend because he didn't like that she was posting pictures of her on, Instagram. He's trying to be controlling, and he was using this kind of therapy speak, using languages like you're not respecting my boundaries, or I set my boundaries, and all that stuff. And that blazed, like the internet went berserk again, with people defending Jonah, saying that, he expressed himself from the heart and he was genuine and at least he was honest, even if he was going a bit too far, but at least he expressed it in this kind of way. And then the other side of the internet, which went like, oh no, but he's a manipulative jerk and this is like total like psychopath, narcissist, whatever. And so, I got annoyed. And hence why I'm recording this video. So I'll give you, a metaphor, first of all, like sort of an example. So a thought experiment. Imagine you have two people that are together, a couple. One of them has really, really weak legs. So like they're really like razor thin and he barely can hold on his legs. And the other partner has very, very weak arms, like, totally like can barely lift things up. And now imagine that the guy with really weak legs at some point like stumbles and falls and falls on the other person and hurts them, because they have weak legs. Would you say, oh, that jerk, terrible person, blah, blah, blah. Or imagine, for instance, that the person with really weak arms was carrying something heavy and then dropped it on the other person and then, hurt the other person. Would you be like, oh, that's really terrible, this is a bad person, whatever. And the reason I'm using this analogy is because what transpires from this kind of relationship between Jonah and his girlfriend is that both of them are actually, in a way, are weak. They're not fully realized humans that have healed all their traumas, and they're actually pressing on each other's mutual emotional wounds or traumas. And that is just one thing that I've noticed, is that the universe is basically pairing us with people that have the opposite emotional wounds, traumas, or fears, so that we are able to notice the ones that we have. So in other words, if you have really weak legs, but nobody at some point, tells you, like, imagine if you couldn't see your legs, you couldn't really have look at them and see that they're weak. What you need is to interact with other humans. Basically, you walk amongst other humans with your weak legs, and then you stumble and fall and you bump into people and people say, hey, watch out, you need to do something about your legs. And you're like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What legs? Now, the legs, of course, here are a metaphor to refer to emotional trauma or problems or fears that we have that are psychological, and hence we don't have eyeballs turned inside into our brains to see, the trauma that is stored there or accumulated or some kind of psychic problems we have. The only way to be aware of a wound or a fear or something that we have is through the interaction with other people that sort of serve as a kind of mirror so that you can see yourself. And then you can work on yourself. And usually the universe is so well designed that it pairs people with emotional wounds that are, in parallel, or that correspond to each other. So for instance, me and my wife, I'm scared of making big decisions and commitments, buying a house or being married or all that stuff, because I fear being trapped or blocked in my life. And my wife fears of never really being chosen by their partner. How strange, right? Well, we talked about this a lot, obviously. And then, when you dig deep, you understand that it comes typically from family, like, the history of my parents and the history of her parents. And obviously, I'm not going to go into the details, but you can see that from observing and living in those kinds of relationships, we've developed these fears that are a match to one another, right? And so, in other words, you can't, when you see these kinds of things that happen, like Johnny Depp and Amber or whatever, you cannot look at that situation via the prism of, oh, there is one oppressor that has all the power, that is, the evil one that is controlling everything. And then there is the one that is the ultimate victim that is powerless and whatever. Actually, invariably, when you have these things, there may be an appearance, an external appearance, a facade of power. But actually, underneath that kind of mask, both of them are super, super vulnerable. It's just that their emotional wounds are not so apparent or, whatever. But somebody that's truly powerful doesn't need to act in that kind of way where they send these manipulative messages or whatever. When you truly, truly, truly hold power, it's this example of one therapist that I really like told me, like, imagine if somebody walks up to you and say, hey, you stupid purple alien. And you're like, what does that do to you? Nothing. Because it's just totally irrelevant. It's completely out of the blue, and it doesn't, like, it just bounces right off of you, right? But if you have any kind of insecurity, somebody tells you something and you really get riled up, emotionally distressed and whatever, then they've triggered you. They've touched on a certain womb, right? And so that's the first thing that I really want to talk about. Now, the whole therapy speak. Now, going to therapy and using therapy language. Typically, when you go to a therapist, they don't necessarily have the opposite womb as you have. So they can't, do that kind of mirroring thing where they project back onto you your emotional trauma via their emotional trauma, and you try to, like, see, in that kind of mirroring thing where what is mine, what is yours. Like, typically if you're with someone that has weak legs and the other has weak arms, it's kind of like this is the example of this kind of match. What the therapist is going to do is they're going to give you crutches. Like, if you have weak legs, they're going to give you crutches. And the crutches are not meant to heal you, but to make you aware that you have weak legs in order to heal them, right? And so all of these, the therapy speak, all of the vocabulary of expressing your boundaries and all that stuff, and the whole vocabulary around it, like, I hear you, I feel you, blah, blah, blah. Think of that as crutches that you use when you're in a still vulnerable position and situation where you're still fragile emotionally, you're still dealing with trauma, and you use those as crutches so that you don't always completely blow up or go into this emotional kind of thing. But if you don't heal the trauma, then you'll still fall over, but you'll also hurt people with your crutches as you fall, right? So, that's typically what you've noticed where Jonah was sending this message and employing, the therapy speak, is that he's the guy with the weak legs. He falls over, hurts his partner, and at the same time, he hurts her with her crutches because he's using them. So, yeah. Now, as far as boundaries, that's also kind of something that's misunderstood. I mean, the idea is not to set, like, super high boundaries for everyone around you. It's just like the crutches, like, they're a temporary fix to help you recover emotionally or from your trauma, but you're not supposed to use them forever. Like, if you use your crutches forever, then, it's besides the point, right? And obviously there's the difficult topic of what are normal and healthy boundaries. And that's still vague. It's not universal. But let's just say that if you start, like, screaming at someone that doesn't put, trash in the right colored trash can for recycling or something, there's something in you that needs to be healed more than in the other person. Like, the most natural boundaries are those set by the ego of your physical body, that is sensing when your life and physical integrity is in danger and doing what's necessary to protect it. But in our modern societies, we're almost never in physical danger anymore. It's always about emotional trauma or the persona that is in danger. That is, the person that you think that you are perceives that it's in danger. Like, for instance, imagine if you think you're a super, super good violin player and somebody's a really bad critic and they criticize your playing to death. Like, they criticize absolutely everything about you, right? It's not like he's going to crucify you. It's not like he's going to take out a knife and stab you because you're a bad violin player. But he's attacking the persona that you've built, the image of yourself that you've built. I'm a good violin player. And you put that mask on, I'm a violin player, a good violin player. And if that is attacked, then it is there is a part of you that feels like it is in danger of dying. The idea that you have of yourself, not your physical body, of course, but the idea of who you think you are. And in that sense, like all of these, most traumas can be analyzed in that kind of, via that kind of prism. The fear of a part of you that doesn't want to die, basically. A persona that is being attacked, or some kind of things like that. And there are many other emotional trauma, of course, but that's one main one. Now, also just looking at the reaction of the Jonah Hill and his partner kind of scenario, like fiasco and scandal. It's the attitude of people that kind of pisses me off, because imagine like this guy that falls with his crutches and hurts someone, and somebody screams at them, "You piece of shit, you fell on purpose, you're the worst," and all that stuff. In what world do you think that that's actually going to make them want to heal or improve or go to the gym and train their legs, or give up the crutches or whatever? I mean, it just never happens like that. Like, never when somebody insults you or is mean to you like that, like the internet when it blows up, that never has positive consequences. So I just don't understand why we're still at that kind of level. And that's maybe something that I have to work on. Who knows? Anyways. So when people have these issues and press on each other's wounds, it's in order to do so in a safe space. Now, would you rather heal your wounds with someone very close to you that knows you intimately? Or would you rather do it with a stranger or on the street or with your boss at work or in front of an audience on stage, I mean, it's best to do these things, privately, because these things are very sensitive sometimes. It's to deal with certain insecurities that are very, very profound. And that's also why typically it happens with your partner. I mean, with my wife, I've identified like dozens of wounds that we have that are a match to each other. Like dozens, plenty. And I'm not going to go through them, but it's just that is also part of the reason why we do it with people that we're close to, because those are people that we can trust, and we can go deep enough in those kind of wounds that they actually come to the surface, and you are in a safe space where you can, in a space where normally a loving space, where you can work them out, right? But when these kinds of wounds and problems blow up into the internet, it's actually an opportunity for the collective to heal. So when you see someone with weak legs falling on someone with weak arms, it's like an opportunity to see which one of those two you are, if it's something there triggers you. And it's an opportunity for you to heal and grow. And that's also something that's really important, is that ultimately the only thing you can do, like really, you cannot heal the other person. You can only take what is there for you and take care of your own evolution. And normally when you evolve, when you heal your own womb, then the other person that has the mirror kind of trauma to you or yours will feel immense pressure. It's like if, you're rock climbing and you're kind of at the same height, and one of them goes, moves upwards, Well, I mean, upwards, it's like I'm not meaning this in a kind of hierarchical way, of course. I'm meaning upwards in as in you go to a different kind of space, where that womb is no longer yours anymore, and the other doesn't budge, and you have a rope that is between them. You're going to feel a lot of tension, and either that person will also heal the womb that you have as a mirror to yours, and will join you at the same kind of level, whatever that is, or the rope is going to snap and you're just going to move apart because they need to find someone now that can reflect their womb back again because they failed to see it with you the first time. And so it's going to happen again and again and again until they actually work it out. And so that's the only thing that you can control is to every time there's like a problem or something, you can only work on your own womb and your own insecurities and your own trauma and your own emotional problems, but never on the others. It's just impossible. There's just no way. And the whole boundary thing is just a temporary kind of fix so that you have the opportunity to see within yourself where your wounds are and not, instinctively bark at the world and whatever. Those are the boundaries are not for the other people. It's for you to be able to go deep inside of you to heal your own things. And then your boundaries can expand and be less controlling, less inflexible. And finally, why is this happening now? Why is all this trauma blowing up everywhere? And we have these scandals one after the other, and people are calling each other misogynist and narcissist, controlling pervert, whatever. Well, we are in a day and age where we are forcefully have to heal all of that trauma because of what is happening at the collective level. So imagine like this example, right? I frequently compare the evolution, the growth of humanity on this planet like a baby developing in the womb of its mother, right? Imagine the cells of a baby that is about to be born, and they still carry unicellular trauma that they carry from their unicellular past lives or whatever. What would happen? Well, the baby would die. As a global organism, it couldn't sustain itself because the cells, which are a part of it, would be still like in the state of separation, fighting with each other, protecting themselves against other people, or reacting in a very, bad way, and always like fighting, no, I should be the cell of the stomach, no, I should be the lung cell, and blah, 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 blah. I mean, as humanity now is supposed to form a functioning, harmonious, global collective organism, where each one of us is like a cell in that global collective organism, we cannot carry our traumas and our emotional wounds and all of that into that space, because otherwise it's like we're a cell that doesn't know what it should be and is always, is consuming too many resources or too little resources, and is unbalanced, is attacking other cells. I mean, it just wouldn't work, right? I mean, the humanity as a collective would disintegrate, and we would sink back into like chaos and whatever. So all of that trauma now is bubbling up so that we can look at it and deal with it. And it's a luxury that we don't have now of kicking the can down the road. Like 200 years ago, people could, insult each other, rape, kill, whatever. And they're like, oh, okay, let the next generation deal with it, right? And then that's what happened, basically. You transmit trauma like that from one generation to the next, and that's what we call karma here. I mean, in esoteric terms. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to see it is fine, we are the generation where that trauma has to kind of stop, be healed permanently or near permanently, because we are the bridge where we're at the limit of now is the time to form a global collective organism or all perish and die. And we can feel it. We can feel that the societies we're in are on this kind of brink of destruction, like civilizational collapse. Everybody's talking about it. And so, yeah, that's why we're experiencing these kind of outbursts and scandals one after the other. The Andrew Tates and everybody's like, oh, I support Andrew Tate. No, he's a rapist, blah, 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 blah. And, there's just so much opportunity out there to serve as a kind of mirror for exploring your own wounds and traumas. You don't even have to do it with your partner. You just, scroll through Twitter and you have like 10 opportunities to heal some emotional wounds because you're triggered by this or that. And it can be exhausting, which is why we need to take it easy. And that's also one of the boundaries. Even put boundaries for your social media. And I'm the first one that should do it, because obviously the reason I'm talking to you here is because I got quote unquote triggered. I mean, it's not like I went berserk and started tweeting all over the place. I decided to do a video, so I still managed to like keep my cool and not like lose my shit over it. But it's still something that annoys me, like time and again, when I scroll through my feed and I see things. So one thing at a time, take it easy, but don't cling on to your crutches, and understand. Always try to have this mindset of trying to understand what's in there for you to heal. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Talk to you in the next one, and cheers. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, the usual.